appreciate you guys showing up. My name's Tony Stillman. I'm the Flying Site Assistance Coordinator for the Academy of Model Aeronautics, and took over this position about 6 months ago. One of the things that AMA wanted to do was to revitalize our flying site program, flying site assistance program. There's been several surveys done which show that flying sites are the #1 issue for our membership. And you know, you guys are nodding your head. Yeah, probably everybody in this room has experienced some sort of issue with a flying site, whether you might have been involved in a long struggle to gain a flying site, or your club recently lost a site, or there's been a noise issue, or whatever. So, I mean, we're very aware that if you don't have a flying site, you're not going to have model airplanes, and that's, you know, this is why we're here. We're here because we love model airplanes, and we have a lot of fun doing that. I've been flying models for 30 years myself, and you know, I wouldn't know what to do without model airplanes being in my life. So this has always been near and dear to my heart, and by taking over this position, it's kind of a way that I can kind of give back to modeling, and it's something I really enjoy doing, working with clubs. But in the short period of time that I've been involved, we talked about with headquarters that we kind of wanted to change the direction of what we were doing with flying site assistance. That is, we've been doing a good job helping clubs that's been losing flying sites in a reactive sort of way. We get a phone call. Lots of times the typical phone call is, hey guys, just found out yesterday we lost our flying field. When are you going to fly over here and get us another one? Well, you know, we wish that we could do that, and we had enough money to do that, but I think if we raised everybody's dues to about, you know, $200,000 a year, then we might have enough money to buy everybody a flying field. But obviously that's not going to happen. So, but we do have programs to help clubs, you know, relocate, find out what's available, and that's been a good part of what we've been doing. What we're trying to do now is become a little more proactive and try to help clubs learn ways that they can do to protect the site that they have. Many of you probably are on sites that your club's been there for several years, but you know, there may be encroachment issues or some things that have you kind of worried about what's the future holding. And so there's certain things that you can do even though you don't own the site, but there's certain things that we can help you to do to protect that, or at least protect your interests, so that you're part of the community and the community sees you as an asset and they want you to be there. They want you to exist. You may have to relocate because of, you know, encroachment issues or whatever, but they want you to exist, and they will assist you in relocating. Well, that's a good place to be. So we're gonna touch on both of those areas. This seminar is based on a book that the Academy has had for quite some time now, several years. It's called Getting and Keeping Flying Sites, and as I took over this position, one of our #1 tasks was to rewrite this manual and add some new documentation to it. We had some old documents that have been around for a lot of years, which were good documents, but just outdated. And so we did a lot of work on that. And headquarters, Aaron Dobbs at headquarters helped me with that. And we have a really good document now that I think is great. It's a free document. It's available to members and clubs to access. It will shortly be on our new website. If you've been on the website, you might have seen it's changed. We have a page for flying site assistance, and that will be on that page. You'll be able to download that in a PDF, so you can look at it immediately, along with other documents and videos. What we're doing today is we're videoing this, and so this will be available for clubs to review. So my task coming on board was to kind of develop this keeping flying sites. Some of this was already addressed in the book, but we needed to bring it up to date and then talk about things that clubs are actually doing. And what we're doing now is we're gathering stories from clubs, and if you have a flying site story, we'd love to hear from you about that. That's in the magazine. And if you have a situation where it can be that you just lost a site and how it happened, or that you gained a site and this is how it happened, and this is what you're doing to help, you know, keep your site and your relationship with the county or whatever it is. We'd like to hear those stories, because what we're doing, we're putting all those things together and organizing them in such a way that when a club calls in or emails in, and I can say, well, you know, we got some documents about working with a park and recreations department. Here's some clubs that's done that and what it's worked for them. Because many times you may be talking with an organization that is unaware of what model airplanes even are. And so you have to start from scratch and teach them a little bit about it, kind of like what you were talking about to me earlier. The guys come out and see it. Well, is this all you do? Well, there's a lot more to it than that. And so we got to show you a little bit about what we do. So these documents are something that you can pass on and say, this is, you know, city XYZ, and they've got a flying field that their city built for them. you know, and why can't we do that here? And so we have all these stories that we're going to work together that will be a resource to help other clubs to be able to approach those same people in their same neighborhood and hopefully get a positive result out of that. So we want to continue to do that as well. So the basic outline of the book is getting a flying site. That's obviously you got to have a place to start, and then keeping a flying site. So we're going to divide it in two sections and work on it that way. First half is finding a flying site. Now here again, you may be in a great position where you're flying a site now, you don't have to worry about that. But I would also challenge you that things change, and you want to have some sort of contingency plan in your club. Not something you need to run out and do tomorrow, but you might want to think about it. You know, what would we do if we found out we got this 30-day notice that we got to leave? What's the club going to do? So in the process of finding a flying site, one of the most important things you can do to start with is just organize yourself. Probably if you have a concern, there's other guys in the club that have the same concern. Bring it up at a club meeting and say, we need to get together and maybe get a little group and talk about these issues and kind of organize and decide how you would proceed. We have a lot of good resource materials at AMA. This book is kind of our Bible and guideline, but there's some other documents, and we have some DVDs that are really good on specific areas. Anything from flying at a national park. We have clubs that fly at national parks. We have information on wildlife issues where you might have concerns with whatever. And we've got a lot of that down. And part of what we're doing now is putting this information together so you're going to be able to access it quicker through the website. But you can also get this information with a phone call, 1-800-I-FLY-AMA, and ask for the Flying Site Assistance Department. Those folks will help you. It's Erin Dobbs, and she'll be glad to provide any other assistance that she can. Of course, you have my number as well. Part of the organization is develop a long-range plan. Where do you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 25 years? You could do that now, even though you have a flying site. Are you happy where you are? Does it meet the requirements that you have? You know, what are your plans for the future? So that's something you as a club might want to discuss. You know, what are your goals? Maybe you want to put on some big events and you really can't do that where you are. So those are things you want to talk about. And then you want to implement your plan, whatever that happens to be. However you decide, well, we need to find another site, or we need to find some funding to make this site better. So decide on a plan and implement the plan. Okay, in the basics, as you move forward, you got to determine your needs. What do you really need? Well, if you're flying power, you probably need a runway. You probably need a pits area. You need a place to park. We talked earlier, you may need to make sure your facility is wheelchair accessible or handicap accessible. What's involved in that? You need bathrooms, probably. You want to put all this stuff down and what your needs are. So to start it with, you got to determine what you want to do. I mean, you're flying park flyers, giant scale, turbine jets, sailplanes, you know, whatever the site may be, you have specific needs. But you need to also remember what your club wants to do. Do you have a kind of a basic idea of what the club is wanting to do? Do they want to just fly one certain type, or they want to expand into different areas? So your site needs to be able to deal with that. Typical clubs are flying airplanes and helicopters, and there are some issues sometimes mixing those two. And so you may want to decide, well, maybe we could resolve this point if we have a helicopter pad over here. So those are things you can discuss with the club and decide what would you like to do. And that kind of goes into what you would like to do, the want side. You have needs. You specifically need a runway. You specifically need a pit area. But what else would you like to have? It'd be nice to have a clubhouse where you could have your club meetings there or whatever. And that might seem difficult or unusual, but I know of a club in Jacksonville who there actually is a ruling within the county that said if they got removed from their specific site that they have, that the county has to pay for them a new site as good or better than where they left. And they have a nice large facility there where they could even have club meetings. So if the county's got it in their own laws to buy you another one, then you're in pretty good shape, and that's a really good relationship to have. And matter of fact, they have lost that site, and they have well, in 3 years they're going to lose it. It's become a federal cemetery, a veterans cemetery, and so the county's in the process of building them a new facility. And they're in a 3-year process right now of designing that and building it. This is in Jacksonville, Florida. It's the Gateway RC Club, which I'm a member of. How much area will be required? In the back section of the book, there is a kind of a basic outline of flying site layouts. There's nothing in stone. There's nothing required by AMA. You don't have to have X number of site in order for your insurance to be good. So you want to kind of lay out what it is that you do. If you fly giant scale, you need to kind of prepare for that. If you're flying park flyers, well, you probably don't need as much space. So you decide all that in your long-range plan. The other thing that sometimes is not discussed is how accessible is the site to your members. I mean, if you're driving on a windy dirt road, it's hard to get there. Well, some guys may have a problem with that. Or if it's 40 miles on the other side of town, you know, some of your members may not be able to go there anymore, and that's going to affect your membership. Yeah, you'll probably pick up new members on that side of town, but what about the other guys? So it's something you have to consider when you're thinking about it. I went and visited a field today, a slope soaring site early this morning, and they're up kind of in the mountains, and the road wasn't too good after all the rain you've had locally, so it was a little bit of a struggle to get up there. So they're working on that issue as well.